It's 4 p.m. Can I ask everyone to mute their microphones, please? Officers and guests, could you also turn off your cameras? You should turn on your camera and microphone when you speak, but please turn them back off again afterwards. All councillors must ensure that their cameras remain on. Could I please ask Democratic Services to begin the recording? Prynawn dda pawb, croeso i'r cyfarfod heddiw. Good afternoon, welcome to Neighbourhood Services Countryside and Planning Scrutiny Committee of Monday the 30th of January 2023. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recordings may also be used for training purposes within the authority. Going to agenda item 1, apologies for absence. Item 2, any declarations of interest, including whip-in declarations? We have none. Scrutiny referrals? We have none. And we'll go straight into item 4, weed spraying throughout the county borough, street scene maintenance, and ask Councillor David Hughes, the portfolio lead, for an introduction, please.
Thank you, Chair. You have to excuse me, I left my glasses in the car, but I can see pretty well. The summary of the report is found in 1.1, and it's the weed removal is not statutory undertaken for the council, and the weeds are not scored when the street cleanliness is checked against the local environmental audit and management system criteria. However, the presence of or absence of weeds is an important element of what's considered local environmental quality. If it's a street has lots of weeds, it looks run down and uncared for. It can also attract environmental crime such as littering and fly tipping. If left to grow unchecked, the roots can cause damage to the pavements and the garden walls. Streets that are free from weeds, on the other hand, look cleaner, tidier, and more welcoming. This report looks at the current system of weed treatment and the challenges faced by the service in the future. The purpose of this report is that the Scrutiny Committee notes and debates the content of this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, David. Gerald, do you want to give an introduction from the operational side or go straight to questions?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the weed operations these days taken by the local authority by a third-party contractor, Total Weed Control, because simply we haven't got the resources or manpower to carry it out. Where we come in on as a local authority, we mop up areas which haven't been done efficiently by Total Weed Control for whatever reason, might be down to weather, because there's only a short time limit window where we can effectively spray weeds with glyphosate, because it needs 6 hours rain fast in order to work. As we're in Wales, you know, we don't often have that sort of weather in order to spray. The problem we got, glyphosate is going to be phased out by 2040. So we built up a lot of stocks at the moment. It's still legal to use. It's also a problem with knotweed spraying, because that's the only effective measure we can use to treat knotweed within the borough. I don't think I can add any more to that. I'm open to questions if you want.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay.
Open it up to questions, please. Bill, I believe you were first.
Thank you, Chair. A simple question. Why it's not a statutory duty? Because it's the funny thing is, I'm doing the drive on the back of the garden, right? And the weeds are unbelievable. And it's not a seasonal thing now, weed collecting, because wherever you look around, is weeds everywhere, right? And that's unbelievable. So the question asked, why can't it be a statutory duty to help what we're trying to do? Because when you go weeds about, the litter's about, the liquor lingers to it. And as I said earlier on, when the weeds grow up, it's a mess. And sometimes, I can say last summer, I was only done once a year, and what they used wasn't strong enough. And now we got to use the weed killer to kill it about every other quarter now, every 3 months to get short of them. So that's my question. Why is not a statutory duty for us to deal with it? Because we're not dealing with it. Thank you, Chair.
Ben.
Yeah, the statutory duties are not set by us, councillor, they're set by Welsh Government.
Right. Can we apply to the Welsh Government, and if we can give us advice on it, because it's a mess? Everything says the Welsh Government, but then we got to step in and say enough is enough.
Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously the LEAMS quality assessments are laid down for all local authorities, so there's some parity across all, and they can be benchmarked across all. So, I mean, obviously we can lobby Welsh Government, but you know, the statutory requirements are set down in legislation.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jeremy Davis next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I noticed when they do the weed spray in the outside company, they go around on a quad. So I was just wondering, have we got any equipment like that ourselves when you say you go out to mop up areas? And what type of equipment we do, and if we use quads, and when we got?
We currently have one quad within our fleet, only one quad. We'd use what we call CDAs, control droplet applicators, that is where the substance is already pre-mixed in sachets rather than being water mixed, and knapsack sprayers.
And the other question then was, obviously with some of the streets, like you got in Brecon Road, Dowlas, where you can get lots of weeds growing on the paths, because obviously they small side streets or whatever. So when the quad goes down these, if there's loads of cars parked there, do they come back and spray it? Because I know they don't always get off their quad, because obviously being out and about in the community doing voluntary work, I've seen them sometimes just miss like 50 yards, and it's not their fault. There's cars parked on the curb or whatever, yeah. But do they go back and weed spray, or do the council do it? Because obviously this private company gets paid money for it. But I just feel sometimes they're not doing certain areas when I look around the area.
That's a valid question. More often than most, they do go back, but because we had to pick them up on it where it hasn't been done on large areas like that. But if this is just a space of one car, more often than most, we'd cover it.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you. Clive Jones next, please.
Thank you, Chair. Few questions. When did we as an authority go down to one application from two? Was it several years ago? Because yeah, because we used to have two applications, but I presume of the fact that we're using glyphosate meant that we're trying to protect the people who do the work and the public.
Yeah, it's partly to do with costs and environmental pressure as well, like because to try and reduce using herbicides. But it's mainly down to cost with cutbacks.
I mean, the reason I ask the question is I didn't realise, Chair, that the period of time for undertaking this work is, usually between May and July, you've got a short window of opportunity. And as you just stated, Gerald, it has to be done when it's reasonably dry. We don't often get dry periods in the valley, certainly not in Merthyr Tydfil. That leads me into the question, really, and it was particularly noticeable, just been mentioned by Councillor Jeremy Davis, virtually the whole length of Brecon Road last year was quite noticeable, because the weeds up against the on the houses side of the pavement clearly hadn't been done. Now, I didn't report it, but if I'd known the period of time, and it had gone, I don't know, sometime into July, I'd have referred the complaint to you. But I think everybody was expecting this work to be done at some time. It clearly wasn't. And again, I didn't realise that the external contractor had these quads. So if you operated from the roadway, Councillor Davis is quite right, there's cars parked there. How do they get at these weeds, which are right in on the pavement, but right in front of properties?
They have got foot soldiers going down round with the crew cab with knapsack sprayers as well. There's a team that goes round besides the quad, but plays for herbicide.
Last year, did they, for some reason, and perhaps you might know it, did they not cover all 27,500 domestic properties throughout the county borough? Because it wasn't just Brecon Road, there were other areas. And to be honest with you, I think it was far more noticeable last year than the previous years.
It's maybe down to a number of factors. Thing is, with herbicides, plants tend to build up a resistance against them, even though they've been applied. Same with pesticides. It's just nature. So sometimes it's not always effective. Also, the weather, like I mentioned, not just the dry, when it's got to be dry. Sometimes dry weather don't help as well. Even if it's perfectly sunny, because of evapotranspiration of the herbicide, it don't stay on the plant, the target, long enough. Perhaps times it's evaporated, so it's not allowed chance to be absorbed by the stomata on the leaf of the plant. It could be a number of reasons why it hasn't been efficiently or effectively taken.
So through you, Chair, are you saying that, for example, the Brecon Road, which is my ward, had been done, but this one application, whatever the circumstances, wasn't effective?
I don't know. It could be, like I said, it could be a number of factors. I weren't aware of this Brecon Road. It's the first time we've heard of it.
Yeah.
But it was treated by the end of the year, was it not?
I don't think so.
No.
Because I noticed it was you could see these growing all through the summer months. What I wasn't aware of was that there was that very short period of doing this work. If I'd known that at the time, and as the weeks went by, I'd have probably, reported it and asked for it to be done. But I didn't realise the exact period of time when this work had to be done.
Can I answer the question there? I get a complaint about that area, and we spoke to the firm. Rob spoke to the firm on my behalf, and there was a lapse on it being done, but they did go back later on to do that area.
Right.
But at the beginning, it hadn't been done because they said that they didn't do that area, but they did go back there after, because I think West Grove also had a similar problem.
Right. Had they missed these areas in error, or was it?
No, they were doing other areas. They hadn't done them first of all, which they normally do earlier on, but they went on then and they went back to do them after. So they
Right.
did go back there, Clive, but
Right.
it wasn't there at the beginning like normally.
And it may be by the time they came back there, it had gone beyond this window of opportunity and it wasn't effective. One last question. Reading the report, they're trying to, well, there's a period when this glyphosate can't be used. Is there anything at all on the market that's anything as good as this glyphosate that local authorities can use at the moment, or is there absolutely nothing?
Yes and no, Clive. There's plenty of products out there that are just as effective and strong. The trouble is, glyphosate is plant-based. So when it works, all pesticides work their way into the water stream. It's not so harmful to nature, to the fish, waterborne. Other total weed killers are, so that's why we tended to use glyphosate. But as yet, no, there's not, and it is a scare for us all local authorities, because we don't know what they use if it does
Yeah.
take off market.
It's a bit of a surprise, really, Chair, that no one's found a replacement for it, because it has to be phased out at some time. So
In saying that, it's a decade away before it be outlawed, so they are, I dare say, the boffins are working on it and they're trying to make a product that's just as effective as glyphosate and safe to environment.
okay,
I dare say something will be developed.
okay, thanks.
I believe the Vice Chair's got a comment to make at this point.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, because this had come on straight to red, supposed to be green, but it was just in regards to, do we do random checks of the company who actually go out there and,
Yes.
yeah, because like you're saying, if there's a lot of cars and there's still weeds, are they sort of checked out? Or, and also while I'm with them, before it goes back off, do we have much reports from residents in regards to not getting done?
Yeah.
Although personally, I think it should be look after your own front, but you do have reports, yeah.
The firm works methodically through the borough,
Yeah.
and need to give us a report each week on what streets they've done.
Right.
Then we'd go out then and check, giving it time to use effectively, because it takes up to 14 days to take effect.
Mm.
So we go out within the fortnight then to check the areas, and if not, then we raise that with them. And in fairness, they've been excellent. They fall back on the areas end of spray.
Okay, thank you, Jack.
So-
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, Chair, as a result of
Yeah.
Councillor Leighton's question, I forgot to ask the one, the quad, if they're using it from the roadway and there's cars or the distance away from the road, can the operative reach the pavement from the roadway by, I don't know, manual means?
Yes, he got extended lance. He got
Right.
the lance as well as a boom on the quad.
Right, so that's what they do
Yeah.
when they can't get it, right, okay, thank you.
In fairness, in fairness to the team, they tried this new method of hot foam,
Right.
but that is labour intensive, I believe. So we had one of the machines which cost us nothing, and they did go out trying that machine, but I don't think it was successful, was it, Jen?
Yeah, Dave. The problem with the hot form, it's not with glyphosate. It's what we call a systemic. It's absorbed by the leaf and works its way down to the root, so it kills the plant outright. With the hot form, it only kills the top vegetation, so
Yeah.
it's temporary measure. It don't kill the taprooted weeds, so then they can rejuvenate, growth, and come back.
The
So
roots,
it is, like Dave said, it's very labour intensive because you've got to go over some streets.
it doesn't attack the roots.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, Councillor Jones?
No, thanks.
Councillor Colburn, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, most of my points have been raised by other councillors, but just a couple. Obviously, this is a really tricky one for us all, isn't it? Because we get masses of complaints from residents regarding weeds, but we're all mindful of the environment, or hopefully we're all mindful of the environment and unaware of the dangers of glyphosate. In 3.8, it says in 2017, the EU renewed the licence for 5 years, but recommend that member states reduce its use and promote other methods. And in 3.9, it's in 2020, UK government committed to phase out the use by 2040. So obviously we're no longer part of the EU. Are we going our own way on that, or have the EU renewed the licence for their member states? No one knows. I just wondered if the UK are saying that we can use it till 2040, but the EU only renewed their licence to 2017. Does this mean are we now separate from the EU on this? We're going against them, and or are the EU going to extend theirs up to 2040? Do we know?
I don't know. The EU, well, the EU and Switzerland and Canada have always been alone to themselves. They all like to lead by example and model, but I can't see them extending it realistically. No.
So you think Europe will phase it out?
Yes.
Well, before 2040.
Yes.
And we'll be left on our own.
Yeah.
The only ones using it. Okay. Do we do all the streets in the borough? Because obviously some of the side streets seem to be a lot worse than some of the busier streets. So I do get complaints from residents saying, well, they don't do my street. We'll get that. So I just wondered, are all streets done? And you say that the firm provide a report of the work they've carried out. Could individual wards be advised of the work that's been carried out in their area?
I believe Robert, my line manager, does that. Malcolm, he sends a report out because I've been copied into some of those emails.
Right, I don't recall ever seeing one.
I'll raise that with him, but when he's back. But I have been copied into some emails where he have phased out with certain councillors.
Right, okay, because it would be handy if we could
Yeah.
say to a resident, oh yes, your street was done a week ago, but it might take up to 14 days for you to see the results.
No problem.
So if we had that, that would be helpful. And you say at the moment glyphosate is the only way we've got to dealing with knotweed.
Yeah.
Obviously knotweed isn't covered under this particular report, but just on the back of that, obviously if we've got nothing that we can use on knotweed in the future, that's going to cause massive problems throughout the borough, isn't it? So
Yes, so yeah, and that's not just a problem for us, that's a problem for like third party, like rail track as well, which has a lot read and are facing claims. We don't know where we're going with that one. Again, we just have to wait to see what's developed there on the market.
Right. Okay. And we still have operatives going around with the backpacks, following on behind the quads. Are we satisfied that that can be done safely? Isn't there a health risk to the operatives doing it that way?
But the contractors, yes.
Well, the contractors, all our own council staff, if we're going around.
Yeah, all the risk assessments, and this is one of the most highest risk assessed jobs going with pesticides because of cost regs. Yeah, be safe. In answer to your question before, there is one method that they were trialing with regards to knotweed, was electrifying it, but it's still in its infant stages at the moment. For the induced current into the ground.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I believe that there's also a special course that our operatives need to go on before they can glyphosate.
Yeah, that's right there. It's NPTCA PA1A and PA6A with course regulations.
Take your word for that. Move on then to Philip Starr, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just got a couple of points in relation to the report. One is to do with 5.2, where it mentions the fact that in previous years the Tidy Towns hit squad has been involved in removing weeds following the herbicide treatment, but it appears that funding for this team has come to an end. I just want to ask the question about whether there will be a replacement for the kind of work that the Tidy Towns hit squad has been doing for the last few years. It mentions SPF funding, but it doesn't actually give any more specific information than that.
Yeah, I can answer that one. In terms of the Tidy Towns team, just for clarity, it's one person and a van. We have been informed by Keep Wales Tidy that the funding finishes this year, end of March. So at this moment in time, we are also aware that there is SPF funding available. From the SPF funding, we're hoping to transfer the particular operative into the SPF funding and carry on the duties he's currently doing. But he will also be part of a bigger team covering the Old County Borough, which does include a lot of LEQ projects and weed control, etc.
Okay, thank you very much. And one more question, Chair. Going on to the report as well, where when it's in the section, what do we need to do next? 7.3 mentions encouraging community involvement in weed removal efforts, which can be effective in controlling weeds. Whether that then is practicable, because is it safe to involve community groups or individuals in weed removal? Presumably that would entail physical weed removal as opposed to using the chemical aspects of it. I don't think there's going to be a great demand for community groups to actually involve themselves with some of the chemicals involved. If there is a willingness to involve communities in weed removal efforts, would there be training and equipment available for groups in order to support the work of the council and the contractors?
Again, I think based on our plans forthcoming, it'll be the SPF teams that will be involved in that. We'll obviously have to tap into Mark and Keep Wales Tidy in terms of the voluntary aspect of it. I wouldn't imagine they would be asked to do any of the weed spraying or anything like that. It would be more about the 3 or 4 weeks after the plant is dead. They would be asked to go along with a hoe with our teams and just collect.
Break it up,
yeah.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Phil. In the pre-meeting, Phil, you mentioned, again, community work, but using vinegar and salt.
Mark Meadow.
I'm just curious as to how effective it was and what the opinion is of Gerald as our expert. But Mark, you can know a bit more about it first, please.
I think, as Phil said, a couple of our volunteers have been doing some works around Castle Park area because of all the lanes around there where they've been using the white finger mixture of bit of salt in there as well, I think, you know what I mean? And it's supposed to be a more environmentally friendly way. So we've been told. I've not really looked into myself, but I think from the results they said, Phil, in the meeting, that it does seem to be working in some areas.
Yeah, I've actually used it myself. It seems to do the job.
They combined it, I think, with some physical work as well, didn't they? There was an element of scraping involved as well, but it did seem to work from their perspective anyway. So I think they'd like to carry on doing that, and perhaps we could have a bit more official report about how it actually worked.
Yeah, I think from our side of it, as sorry, you'll all have to bear with me. Although I also work for Keep Wales Tidy, but I'm actually the chairman for Cyfarthfa Community Group as well, and Phil's my vice chair within the group, so hence that's why we're on this conversation. But yeah, it's worth it, I think, because even if it's like used as a trial area and we can get some records of that, at least then we can bring that back in, because we as a community group are literally funded that then through grant. money. I know it's not a massive amount of money involved getting the white vinegar and salt and that, but you know, if it was going to be used on a larger scale, then maybe perhaps the local authorities might want to help contribute towards that maybe as well. It's a definite thought.
Or at least direct you towards where funding is available.
Possibly, yes. But we can definitely keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
And, you know, Alison Chaplin is one of the ladies up there that's been doing some of the works with Hilda. So we can definitely get them to keep maybe even if, you know, a photo of it, or, you know, log, see how it's working.
Yeah, thank you for that. Jed, do we know what the effect of vinegar and salt on these weeds are? Does it just kill the top, or would it go down to the root?
Sorry, Chair, I wouldn't be able to answer that. I was going to ask a question. I was going to ask Mark if it's been effective on perennial weeds or just annual weeds. And I'm wondering what the long-term effects are, depending on what scale we'd use at. What it would it do with the waterways?
Yeah, there's so many things that need to be considered. I agree. Anything else, Phil?
No, I think we did offer some sort of chemical solution to Alison Chaplin, who turned it down, and then had done some research into more environmentally friendly ways of tackling potential weed infestations, and it was her suggestion to utilize white vinegar and salt. So that's as far as we took it. It was just interesting that it did seem to clean up those particular pathways in Castle Park quite effectively. Whether it only did the tops is the key question, isn't it? It all depends whether that infestation then comes back next year, which we don't know yet. But we'll keep an eye on that, I think.
Thank you. Bill, I believe you were next.
I can't say I tried the white vinegar, and you go fairy liquor with it or something like that to mix it, and then walk away. The parts are clean after, so the fairy liquid in it, but the weeds still come back. Can I ask how many times do we, once a year, we go around fill weeding? Can we look at it, because it's another knock-on effect. Once a year is no good. Right, you can do it 1 week and the weather's fine, you can back out the third or second and fourth week. Can we look at do this twice a year? I know we don't go through the budget, you and bits and pieces, but I think twice a year, and we discussed it last year on this, how do we take it forward? Because they come around wheeling, week later, 4 days later, they coming back, sort of according where the sun is shining at the time. But we got to really look at this, because it's not. We keep the comments as up, but can we look at it at the end of the day as a cabinet member? Because once a year, forget it, it's no good. You're going to need it twice.
Yeah, I'm happy to look at it. The thing is to look at the budget. It's a time as well. But what I think needs to be done as well as that is once it dies, is to scrape it up, because I noticed that a lot of the areas once it's sprayed, the actual weed dies, and that looks just as tidy if it's not scraped up,
Oh yeah, agreed.
Yeah, but I think yeah.
In concurring, agreeing with you there, Bill. I think that the growing season now has changed over the last few years, and
it's 12 months a year now.
The growth, yeah, I don't know about 12 months, but it's certainly longer than it was.
Well, it's growing up us anyway.
Bill, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, and I would tend to agree that maybe it does need two episodes of spraying, just because the growing season is longer. So Councillor Hughes had said that they'll look at that, and obviously there is a funding aspect to it as well.
But can the cabinet member come back to us if he's looking at it serious, or just saying you can look at it and then we know what's happening next year?
Bill, I wouldn't say look at it if I wasn't serious.
I know. At the end of the day, you might have a budget, you might change it, and it won't come back to us.
I will come back there.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Layton, please.
Thank you, Chair. It was just on the back of what's been said by the, like with the action groups and what Phil is saying about the vinegar and all that. We've tried that as well. Obviously, Declan goes out and tries that. They always come back. He even ordered a part on Amazon and done the old street. But it didn't get to the root of the, as you said, the street was clean after this device, but they came back. And I don't know really what the answer is, even if it was twice a year. It's weeds, and I don't know how we're going to deal with that. Maybe get initiatives in place, that type of thing. I really don't know. But just to add my bit that we have done that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Layton. Councillor Jeremy Davis, please.
Yeah, just to come back to the tidy towns for there. I know when they were funded, or they was, obviously I don't know about lately, but when they were funded under Keep Wales Tidy, I know like a third of the work they had to do for the council, a third of the work source to be with like helping community groups around the area, and a third of their work was like, I know the boys used to do gardens and stuff and jobs at Murph Valley Homes, and I know with Murph Valley Homes they had to pay them. And not pay them, obviously, they paid a fee towards the wages for next year. Is that going to still happen if they no longer under Keep Wales Tidy and go to this different funding?
No, we didn't do any work for Merthyr Valley Homes last year, paid work in gardens. We've only ever, well, for the last 12 months anyway, we've only helped our environmental health team due to pest control, etc., issues with gardens. We haven't done any cutting for Merthyr Valley Homes in their gardens paid work.
No, I know, like, before Mark took the job, obviously, he wouldn't know. We've done a lot of work with Jake with Tidy Towns. And obviously, the part of the contract at the time was they done a certain amount of work for Murph Valley Homes, and they used to go towards the wages, if you know what I mean, Paul.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, obviously, if that has stopped now, and if we go to the other funding, hopefully if we get it or whatever, to keep him on, then are we still going to be looking at doing that? Is it going to be totally right on funding, which obviously you can dry up anytime, you know what it's like?
Yeah, no, we don't do that work anymore, purely down to a lack of resources. The one operative, he couldn't do all the LEQ projects, all the weed control, everything else that he's done this year. We can't sub him out, so to speak, to Merthyr Valley Homes, and they've got their own teams for that now anyway.
Well, I don't know, I'd like to see him around you, like, but we'll disagree with Murph Valley Homes on that one. Cheers, Paul, thank you.
Do we have any further questions from committee members? Nope. Any comments? Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I think we need to keep on top of this. And the reason I say that is that it looked particularly unattractive. I mean, we're trying to, well, throughout the South Wales valleys, in my view, we're trying to do things to make sure that the whole area is attractive to visitors. And I think the last thing you want to see when you're visiting, in our case with the Tilbury County Borough Council's area for the first time, just hundreds of properties with weeds there that appear to be not dealt with. And I think we need to ensure, as I say, that we keep our eye on it and do what we can, bearing in mind the problems we've got with this particular chemical. Yep.
Councillor Colbrand, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with what Clive's just said there. We're fighting against nature at the end of the day. It's always going to find a way. Weeds will just grow. Whatever we do, we've got a chemical that's effective, but is harmful to the environment, so we can't use that. So this is a really tricky one. It is a big thing for residents. They do like streets to be clean and tidy and neat, but at the end of the day, if we haven't got an effective tool that we can use to solve the problem, I don't know what you do, Gerald, to be honest. So, you know, I don't envy you this one at all.
Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is going to be an hard one, this is, because weeds will grow well, as I said, it's growing 12 months a year, and it's growing as we speak up this now. Can we arrange some sort of meeting with those associations so we can work together on this? If it's not a statutory duty, why can't we all work together on this? Because if it's a statutory duty, we'll be doing the work, automatic, but it's not a statutory duty, as you just said, until it is. Perhaps we could get other agencies in, housing associations to help us out. Because we haven't got one operator, we need staff badly to go around and help us to keep the place tidy. That's the bottom line to it. It's not just we can't do it all in one go. We can't. We haven't got the funding, we haven't got the staff. But if we can work all together with everybody, I'll get around the table and talk and see how we can do it. You know, perhaps MVH and Merthyr Housing might come up with something, you know, but can we arrange some sort of meeting to talk to them about it? Because it's not going to go away, is it? Thank you, Chair.
Take that on board, Bill, and we'll see what we can do and come back to the committee on it. Are there any other comments? In that case, I'd like to thank Gerald and Paul for their time, and David and Judith as well. We're going to move on to the next item, so you're welcome to stay if you wish. Happy days, more the merrier. Move on then to agenda item 5, Carry Cymru guidance and the infrastructure presentation from Wales Tidy. So I'll leave him to Mark to introduce the team first.
It's my button as well. Yes, thank you all for the invite today. Obviously, I'm Mark Davis, the project officer for Merthyr Tydfil Keep Wales Tidy, and Catherine's come along today from our policy department. It was going to be Gemma, the manager of policy, but unfortunately she's unwell and Catherine. So Catherine, I think before we start, maybe either save a bit of time. I don't know if you actually want Catherine just to run through the presentation. You've all, I've been told, have had your pamphlets, you know, with regard to the infrastructure. So are you happy for Catherine just to do a quick run through, or do you want to do quick questions? Catherine, what do you want to do?
Should I run through the key findings?
I think if you give the key points, I think it'll give a bit more clarity to it. Please.
So come over to Catherine.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, so as in the title, bin infrastructure, over the last couple of years, we've been gathering more evidence about bin infrastructure and what we can do to improve the provision on the streets across Wales. And so we've recently produced some guidance for local authorities that we hope will be taken on board in any sort of bin strategies and stuff like that that you develop. So we started looking at this in 2018-19, and what we found across Wales was generally most local authorities, when it came to putting bins out, there was not a lot of structure to it. They were generally as and when they were requested by members of the public to members. They were just placed out and put anywhere on a bit of an ad hoc basis. As a result, a lot of local authorities in Wales don't have sort of a plan or even a real good kind of list or infrastructure of where their bins are in the county, what problems they're solving, and whether they're cost effective. There's quite a few different costs and stuff for local authorities about how expensive they are to to empty. Some say they're about £500 to replace a bin, and ongoing servicing of bins is about £200 a year. Some local authorities are spending tens of thousands of pounds a year emptying bins. So we put together a guidance document really on kind of the best use and placement of bins, where they should be. It's not a statutory duty for local authorities to put bins out, but it is a really important tool in a local authority's statutory duty to keep their land free and clear of litter. So basically, we've got some guidance in there about how they should look. We don't think bins should blend in with the surroundings. Quite often you'll see smoking bins and things like that that are designed to look like they're part of the lamppost, which evidence suggests that's kind of not the way to go. If they're blending in and people aren't seeing them, then they don't know that they're there to use. So we'd encourage sort of brightly coloured and more obvious bin placement. When replacing bins, need to think about the openings and not having completely open bins which will fill with water and are attractive to vermin and seagulls and all sorts of litter problems. They should be really easily identifiable to the public and stand out in the surroundings. And all should come with smoking litter is a huge problem, mainly because people think that when you stub out a cigarette end, they're reluctant to put it in the bin because there's a real fear that it will cause a fire. So stub ashtrays on top of bins are always a really good sort of solution for that. And then we'd encourage all local authorities to have a robust sort of strategy and guidance in place as to where they will put bins. 100 to 200 metres away from the main source of litter is the recommended guidance on sort of location, but also to just do a review of all sort of the bins that you do have at the moment, check whether they are in the right places and they are providing a cost effective kind of solution. Yeah, so summary of the reports of that report has been sent out and you should have had. Yeah, happy to answer any questions. Hopefully that gives a bit of an overview of it.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Over to the committee. Any questions? Councillor Clive Jones.
On page 35, the top of the page, it refers to smart bins. And it indicates the bin has sensors that indicate when it's full. And it says the benefits of this are that cleansing teams can be alerted to when it needs emptying. I haven't seen any of these in operation, but apparently, according to the report, there are some of these in Porthcawl. Has any thought been given to utilising one or two of these in Merthyr Tydfil? The other last thing we need to see is bins overflowing, haven't been emptied for perhaps some good reason, and then piles of litter surrounding the bin.
Yeah, Clive, we have been trialling them. We have been trialling these bins throughout the borough. They're quite expensive actually, but we have been trialling them. Smart bins
In more than one place?
Yeah.
How long has that been in place?
For a month, Clive. Month.
Right, and so far, does anybody think they work in, and how much do they cost each?
We do to have feedback from the company in the next month, so they'll give us some data then in terms of you know what they are showing us. But yeah, the costs are quite prohibitive.
Are they? Have we got one in the town centre where there seems to be you know, litter everywhere?
Yeah, I believe there is one in the town centre.
There is.
Yeah, they're scattered over the county borough. We haven't got a huge amount of them, but we've got a fair few on trial at the moment.
And will it, once you've finished the pilots, can the committee be advised of What the outcome of that, if we not going to utilise them, the reasons, the advantages,
Yeah, of course.
or disadvantage of it. Right, thanks. And my other question, Chair, is, and it has been touched upon by the member of staff from Keep Wales Tidy. I've never understood why bins have got to be black. Usually all black. For me, you know, sometimes people walk past the bins and then 50 yards or even closer, drop an item of litter as if they haven't seen the bin. So is there any reason why bins can't be a bright colour so that they stick out and people can't miss them?
Clive, yeah. There's no particular reason other than the fact, as the bin for structure pamphlet, the bin on the front is multicoloured and dressed like an alien. The cost doubles basically to dress it up and make it more visible. The costs we are paying at the moment are for the new triple recycling on the go bins, £550 per bin. And that would increase to £700 to £800 if we wanted a different colour. So there's no particular reason. I mean, if Scrutiny wanted yellow bins everywhere, we'll start ordering yellow bins. But no, there's no particular reason other than cost.
I wish I could see the colour, but it's all in black
Oh,
and
you're in
white.
black.
Because with this authority, we haven't gone over the barrier to have it in colour. Officers will have every officer department will have coloured leaflets in front of them. But as ordinary councillors, yeah, well, I always use the paper copy. Anyway, thank you.
Well, just following on from what Councillor Jones said, have we considered wraps to save costs, I suppose, where you do get the visibility, but not the same cost?
It's something, yeah, it's something that I think is a good thing. But to be honest, though, Chair, only last year we were allowed a budget for bins. Up until last year, we were asking councillors to pay for bins out of their BIFA funding. So we've ordered as many bins as we possibly can out of our budget. But as with what's going on at the moment with efficiencies and everything, there is, the budget for the bins for next year is under scrutiny at the moment in terms of business cases going forward. So I don't know if I'm going to have a budget for bins next year.
Appreciate that, Paul. Mark, do you want to come in with that?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So it's just on the comment you made there with the wraps to highlight bins. This is something that we are going to be looking at through Keep Wales Tidy and Bertha Council. I think it was in February or March time. I think, Paul, we brought this up on it, so we're going to be looking at it. So it's going to be a trial, infrastructure trial. So we've going to be looking at hotspot areas around Merthyr, or maybe just one area in particular that's got an issue with bins where people are either leaving black bags, thinking it's the norm, that, these bins are going to be emptied. It's like you've seen yourself, carrier bags hanging out the bins or by the bins. People are using them for food waste, businesses, you know what I mean? So we're going to be looking at this as part of our trial, but we were waiting first until the bins, because the council were looking, which you mentioned earlier, with the sensors and that, so we were letting that roll out of the way first, and then we were going to come in then and look at certain areas.
It's good to hear, and look forward to that happening.
Yeah.
Councillor Leighton.
Yeah, and just go on to 2 questions. Do we still, sorry, do we still look at where bins work and where they don't in the council, or any updates, from Keep Wales Tidy?
Yeah, we're actually reviewing the bins on a weekly basis. We've got 2 operatives now. Their jobs are predominantly going around all week emptying bins. They report back then via the Task-O-Me service we run, basically telling us, if there's any pest control required, are the bins appropriate for the area, how much fly tipping is happening next to the bins, how many bags of sideways from households are there. So we're getting all the information back, and we've got a database. It's not easy. I know for a fact, fly tipping are already inundated with complaints, and I suppose ours are not as relevant to them as the bigger fly tips they're dealing with. But I can tell you for sure that a lot of people in Merthyr are putting their household waste next to our litter bins and dog bins.
Also, do we liaise with the takeaways and the fast food establishments? And if we do, how do we do that?
We don't from a neighbourhood services perspective. We haven't got the resources. We haven't got a commercial officer as such.
What can we do as elected members to sort of support this with the bins and?
That's a good question. We just need to, as an authority, we need to make people more aware of what's going on around us, and we're inundated. We can't cope with the issues that's going on in terms of fly tipping and litter, overflowing bins. We're on the trunk roads this week and last week, and we cleansed the trunk roads last week, the A470. I drove up there this morning and it's already full of litter again. So it's awareness more than anything in Merthyr. People need to understand, that through their actions, it's costing the authority a lot of money.
Yeah. I got one more question, sorry. Do we still visit schools and colleges or community, youth centres? That's probably to yourself, Mark, and to the council. Do we still do that?
From a neighbourhood services perspective, no.
No.
I'm not sure about the waste wardens, though. They may well still be doing that.
Yeah, so through Keep Wales Tidy, project officers used to go in quite regular into the schools and do presentations on rubbish, fly tipping, etc. To a certain extent, we still do, but we've got our own dedicated eco officers now in Keep Wales Tidy, so they will work quite closely with all the local primary and secondary schools in each authority. In Merthyr, currently at the moment, because there was another initiative that Keep Wales Tidy set up back last year for litter-free zones. So we were encouraging certain businesses to sign up to this and do regular litter picks around, not just where the business is, but to adopt an area as well. But we also work with the primary schools on this, and we were given free litter picking kit to those schools that signed up for this incentive. But in Merthyr, because I'm working quite closely with Beth Jones from Rights Away Department, and she secured funding through Welsh Government to purchase litter picking kit for all the primary schools in Merthyr. So as long as they are signing up to be a litter-free zone, they will be getting free litter picking kit as well, which I will go along and help them set up. So I think out of the 23 primary schools, we've signed up, I think 10 schools at the moment. So, we're actively looking to get into all the schools to go in and do a presentation as well with regards to
why I asked is my grandson's in Ysgol y Graig, and when we were taking him to school one day, there was a load of rubbish outside. And he went in and told the headmaster, you need to do a litter pick out there. And that's what they done, but they had their own litter picks and their own tops. And, to show that they were litter picking. I'm just wondering, because it's a good idea, because it starts them young and makes them realise the impact it's having financially, the costs, it's unsightly, everybody should be aware.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sorry, coming back on that. Personally, I think it's imperative that, we we do a lot of work within the schools, because, you know, a lot of this is gone from generation to generation with the littering. So if we can start to make that, excuse me, that impact now with the younger children, and hopefully might not see a change overnight, but maybe 5, 6, 10 years time down the road, hopefully we will see an
Exactly.
improvement then. So
I think that's what we need, is that change, that generation to come forward that don't want this continuing. And the only way to do that is go into the schools and really
yeah,
come in.
definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So Bill Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Can I say, we've seen a lot of bins up the area on the goodness, right? We've got the sensor bins, we've got all bins you name, and they all end up the same. Question was to go to us, have we got a vandal-proof bins? Because you can have as many bins as you want, you can speak for Wales, and it's in the same spot. General care, you know, we just ordering 2 treble bins for the Marsh playing field that we just done up with Prince Charles, because the ground up there is a mess. Right? I would say in 6 months' time, them bins won't be there, and it costs us £900. We've got to do it for the kids to play in it, right? I'm to walk on the community, walk around there, but I don't know if we're going to beat it. But vandal-proof bins will be glad happy to put concrete bins there any day, because people are just filling the bins up and torching them. And that's the trouble. They've got plastic bins, it's not lasting. The metal bins are so thin, they can put a boot through it. So we've got to look at serious, how do we have the proper bins in the right place? And it's just not working about. So nobody can answer that question of vandal-proof bins. Can't blame him.
Sorry, Bill. If they are available, I'm assuming they would be astronomical cost.
I know. You get my money back.
I don't think there's such a thing as a vandal-proof bin, not that I'm aware of, anyway. But there is a comment in the guidance from Keep Wales Tidy where it's the right bin in the right place.
Yeah.
And a lot to do with that is, you know, we should be more thinking towards the way of, we put bins where we've got CCTV cameras, or, you know, you've got your nosy neighbours who are more than happy to report something going on. Those are the sort of things we really need to look at, the right bin in the right place.
Catherine, do you have a comment for that?
Yeah, just to there are some bins now available that are vandal proof and that have got a drop in the top of the bin. So if they are set alight, it'll come down and put the fire out before it's burnt, and then you can just replace the inside bit. So I can dig it out and send it on, that information, to the local authority if it's of interest. But yeah, there are some out there now for that.
Yeah, can I say we've got those bins when we've done the Gurner shop in Neighbourhood, and they're gone. Simple as that. You worked a couple of weeks and then what's happened? It just went. But we got a major problem. So, you know, I think, Paul, do you talk to ward councillors then where you can put bins about in certain areas? Because no, I'll be honest, I never seen that comment. Where do you want the bin if you put new bins about?
Yeah, we liaise, well, I liaise daily with most councillors in terms of litter and bins and everything. And just for a bit of clarity for you, we've put 28 bins out in the last 3 months, brand new, 25 last year and 20 the year before. So, you know.
So how many still standing?
Sorry?
How many still standing, you say?
I've only been made aware of one bin that was vandalised in Taft Bargary Park a fortnight ago, burnt out.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jeremy Davis.
Yeah, just a quick question for Paul. I don't know, Paul, you probably see it more than me, where I see enough myself with fly tipping. But do you think fly tipping is on the rise? Because I sent, between me and you, obviously data protection, I can't say too much about it, but I sent videos to Merthyr Valley Homes, where we had residents around here, like Christmas, in some areas. You thought it was bonfire night with the size on the fires, tipping petrol over there with 3-year-old kids and 6-year-old kids by the side of them, right? Just to get rid of their old junk from Christmas. And then obviously it's like you got to get a couple of bands up there, get rid of it. Do you think it's on the rise? Because I feel it is, because some of the things I've seen around here is just like it's diabolical.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with you, Jeremy. It is on the rise. And I can confirm that because I've seen the Tascomi reports this morning. It's not my area anymore, so I can't comment too much on it. But yeah, I would concur. It is definitely on the rise, and for some reason, people seem to sort of think they're doing the right thing by putting their household waste next to litter bins, and that is fly tipping.
Oh, there's just one little bit litter bins, but there's some of the videos I have between me and you was quite a few houses from the local community go into a green area and are piling it up like it was bonfire night. And I mean piling it up like it was bonfire night. You have one parent going over there, tipping all petrol inside, outside, with his 3-year-old kid by the next to him. And when he lit there, how that kid never got burnt, right? I'll never know. Because you see the exploding of the flame from the petrol, it was shocking, like.
Yeah.
And then it was cleaned up by Merthyr Valley Homes, and then 3 days later they were doing the same thing again. It's like, really?
Yeah, I think that becomes a bit of a police issue then, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm just, you know what I mean? Like, the more I've seen, not just like in my area, when I'm out in other areas, it's like people don't care anymore. It's like, oh, we chuck it there, someone will pick it up anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you for that. Councillor Colburn, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, Paul, how frequently are the bins emptied, and does it depend on the area that the bin is in? I mean, presumably town centre bins need emptying much more regularly than some of the ones in the villages, but are they all done at least once a week, once every fortnight? Is there like a rota that we go around?
Yeah, there is a rota, yeah. Off the top of my head, I should have brought it with me actually. Off the top of my head, every bin in the local authority is emptied once a week. Hotspot areas like, for instance, Triaris Square, Gurner Shops, at least daily. The town centre bins are 3 to 4 times a day, dependent on how full they are. And that's about it, really. Yeah, we've got our hotspot bins that have to be done daily. The process at the moment is we got 2 men. One covers from Lower Town to Bedlinog, the other one from Lower Town all the way up to Ponstick. They're done on a daily basis, the bins around the villages, but the town centre is obviously done a lot more frequently. And as I said, places like, Troydrew Square with the shops, Triaris Square, Gurner Shops, they're done at least once a day.
Right. So there is a list of where all the bins are, their locations, and that is on the rota, because obviously I'm sure we've all had occasions where we've had bins reported to us that were overflowing.
Yeah.
And residents say that, oh, this has been emptied for X number of days, weeks. Yeah. But that shouldn't happen. Is that what we're saying?
I'd like to say that'll never happen, but people do go on the sick and they take holidays, annual leave. We haven't got the resources to cover them. So what we do on that particular issue we got teams in each ward, if you like, or wards. And when the operative is off, who empties the bins, the team, along with their litter picking for the day, are given X amount of bins to empty. And that's where it can occasionally go, missing, and we would have the odd complaint. But I can say that the complaints are drastically reduced since we've had the extra operative.
Right, okay, thank you.
Philip Starr next, please.
Thank you, Chair. It links with the point that Paul made 7 minutes ago about the fact that you've cleaned up the trunk roads, and then you're going on the trunk roads a couple of days later and they're full. Well, this is obviously connected with people who are littering from behind the wheel. Yeah, and you only got to go around any streets where there are fast food outlets or where there's a retail park, and you can see that most of that litter is coming out of people's cars. I was interested in the bin infrastructure report that Keeper said he's had an initiative about car bins, working with Wessex garages I mentioned here, and also tried in the car bins in McDonald's. And very interesting on that point as well is the fact that when there was a survey about drivers being asked whether they would utilise car bins, more than 80% said they would be very, very keen on utilising a car bin. Now, whether that happens in practice, I'm not sure. But have you got any more information about car bins? I know it's a very small aspect, but certainly stuff that comes out of cars, from my own perspective, accounts for a lot of litter that we see on the highways and the streets.
Yeah, it is a huge problem, and it is the most difficult for any local authority to tackle that kind of roadside litter with all the closures and everything that needs to happen. With that particular study, it was to try and investigate which type of bin would work better. So we had several different designs of bins, and we narrowed it down to 2 that people felt most, that they would use most. As with anything, it's the cost then of kind of, we are working as an organisation to try and roll that out and see who we could work with to do a bigger trial on it. But yeah, it's the cost of producing those bins in the first place, and we haven't done as much work in finding out what people would be willing to sort of pay to get it in the first place.
Noted McDonald's is mentioned in the report. Have they welcomed the approach then? Would they get involved in that kind of trial?
Yeah, so they were the ones who supported the original trial for that. And Mark probably knows more than I do about it, but we are working with them to hopefully do more. But yeah, they are very receptive.
They are receptive to the approach
with it and trying to tackle litter.
And I come back to Paula's point about it's all about sort of behaviour change and messaging. But the behaviour change and messaging must come from these big companies as well. I did a bit of litter picking today, and I can tell you now that 50% of what I picked up was from McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they weren't where they are in Cyfarthfa Retail Park, it'd be a hell of a lot less litter that dotted around the place. So hopefully their receptiveness will transfer into some kind of tangible support.
Yeah, as new legislation comes in as well, so extended producer responsibility, which will put more of a duty on these bigger companies in the very near future to deal with it. So that will be very welcome.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Just on that point, Catherine, where I live at the top of Mountain Hare, you could say pretty much every day there's litter from McDonald's, and yet I'm miles from it. But we're sort of en route, both from the A470 McDonald's and from the one at the bottom of town. How are the car bins going to benefit when they are dropping litter that far away? I seem to live in a place where they finish their chips by that time and they cup of coffee because it's always out the window.
Yeah. So the research we did originally, so that trial was targeted specifically at, and we did a roadside litter campaign specifically targeted young male drivers who are more likely to be throwing their stuff out because of the smell and stuff like that attached with it. So they are getting there, and that is where they're finishing. That's obviously how long an extra large bag of fries takes to eat. But they're getting rid of it because it's greasy and because of the smell. So some of the bins that we trialed were ones that would keep that smell in and could be sealed without any risk of spillage and things like that. And they were the ones that were more successful because it dealt with that kind of fear, I guess, that make the inside of their car greasy or smelly, which is the reason that they give for chucking it out in the first place.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Just making a comment what Jeremy just said. We're working with our homes and street lighting department to put new column and a mobile camera up there. Try to stop all the fires that's happening up there and the rubbish being dumped. So it's not just for the fires, it's perhaps we can catch people throwing the rubbish about. That's the main thing. Another comment, McDonald's, we changed the name for Goodness Road to McDonald Way. Because Sunday morning and Saturday morning, it's absolutely covered there. Unbelievable. Thank you.
Are there any more questions from the committee? I just got one or two minor ones, I suppose. How are we made aware that the bins that compact need emptying?
Yeah,
No, the bins.
sorry, Dave, what was that?
The compactor bins.
Oh, the big belly bins.
How were we made aware that they need emptying? Is there a signal that comes out, or is it just manual inspection?
There's sensors inside them that once they get to a certain point, so they compress as much as they can, and then there's a sensor that would send an email or a notification then on the big belly ones, certainly, to the operatives or whatever to go and empty them.
So, Jude, is that the system that we've got with our bins?
It's the ones that we're trialing, you mean?
Yeah.
Similar kind of thing. There's sensors within them that tell you when they're full and when they need emptying.
So there's a message sent out to where?
To the back office system.
Right, that does answer that one.
On that as well, though, Dave, the ones we are trialing at the moment are just sensors, they're not compactors.
Right.
And that's one of the issues we're having, to be honest. And I'm sure there'll be another report on that soon.
Lovely. As an overview, and I found it a very interesting presentation. Are there any, I certainly don't think it's one size fits all, but are there any common elements from your wider research that would benefit us at Merthyr Tydfil?
Yeah, so I think the trial that you're doing on the censored bins is something that, you know, we think is great, and we'd love to hear how you kind of get on with it, because I think the ones you're trialing are less costly than those big belly ones that compress it as well. And I don't think anyone else is trialing that. But yeah, we would certainly advocate using it for messaging and making bins brighter and more visible to anyone walking past. It great sometimes, I think, with planning and that kind of idea of things being tied in, you know, the black cigarette end dispenser, you know, on lampposts and things like that. But yeah, we'd certainly advocate using bins for messaging. You know, they're blank canvases, really, to get your message out there. That would be our biggest take, I think, from it, is to just make them more visible.
Lovely, thank you very much. That's my end of my questions. So there are no more. Any comments, please? Councillor Colbrand.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thanks very much for the presentation and the report. It's really interesting. Something that's really shocked me reading it is the public attitude to bins section, where we're saying 25% of the population will consider littering if there's not a bin nearby. 70% of the population will put litter next to a bin that was overflowing. 25% of litterers think there is no option but to drop litter when the bin is full. It goes back to what Paul has said. This is about education. I mean, we had this message drilled into us when I was at school. You don't drop litter, you take it home. But if we're still not getting across to some people, is it? And that's, I'm genuinely shocked by the high percentages there.
Sure.
Sudi?
Yeah, totally agree with all that, Malcolm. You know what I mean? And this, it is an educational thing, as we mentioned earlier on as well. It's a generational thing as well now, you know what I mean, where parents have done it, kids see it, they think it's quite all right to throw the litter down as well, is keeping. And one of the things, because I used to work on street cleansing years ago, and as I said, one of the big bad bugs for me was keeping you in a job. You know what I mean? That's some of the attitudes you actually get from people as well. You know, it's always been a big debate, bins, if they're the right things to use, if they're the wrong things to use. I think it's imperative, like what we've said in our briefs as well, it's the right bin in the right location. It's not necessarily always used, because I said, and some, it was brought up, I think, just earlier on now about the McDonald's as well. Now, Phil will bear witness this as well. We've done quite a bit of work as a community group with McDonald's in Cyfarthfa Ward. I don't know if you're aware of the road going from Ashfets up to the retail park, Aberdare Road. Well, McDonald's actually purchased two bins, which you now see on Aberdare Road, because we, as a group, we were litter picking it quite regular. So they said that they would put the funding in. So through Merthyr Council, they obviously had the bins purchased through the network, and it's labelled up as Merthyr Council. McDonald's actually paid for them. We've seen a reduction, I think, Phil, you agree, in the litter since the bins were put there, but unfortunately, people are still throwing the litter as you go past there. I was having a conversation with Catherine earlier. There was I was out walking the dog one day, and as I was walking up, there was a group of 6-7 girls walking down from the retail park, all McDonald's in their hands. I thought, oh, they'd be fine. They literally walked 10 paces past that bin and just threw the rubbish on the floor. I ended up having to chase him down the road. The dog nearly had a heart attack, and I couldn't catch him because I think I was having a heart attack as well. But it is that, you know, it's a sad thing to see. It's the mentality amongst a lot of people these days, and hopefully through the work that we are doing to keep Wales tidy, going into the schools with the educational side of it, we might see a change later on. I know we've had talks with, because we have regular quarterly meetings with Paul, etc., because they're our LEQ contacts through Carrot Cymru. And we know there's like an issue with enforcement as well, that you haven't got the facilities or the teams sometimes to be able to do that. So there's a lot of contributing factors, I think, that need to be sorted before I think the issue is rectified.
Thank you for that, Mark. Councillor Leighton.
Yeah, just wanted to say, yeah, it was a great presentation. Thanks. Do you know, you've been doing around the areas, they do it throughout Wales now with the pickup points for litter picking equipment, different groups. We've done it ourselves, and obviously it's been done throughout the borough. Do you highlight where they are, and do we highlight that as well as the authorities to say where people can go if they want to do that? Because you'd be surprised how many people out there really want to help, because it is a massive issue. It's not just down to one person or one department. This is a big issue, and it's everybody's problem. And I just think sometimes if we could put something out on comms to say, you know, if you want to get involved, the well-being side of it, even you can pick it up here in this where you live, this is where yours would be, and that type of thing. Because we've seen that in up our way, and now, touch wood, more and more people are getting on board, you know, and want to do it. It's the older generation.
So yeah, just to come in that, Chair, if it's all right. So some of you might be aware, some of you might not be aware. Again, as an organisation, we set up litter hubs throughout, well, the whole of Wales. So within Merthyr, we've got currently at the moment, I believe, 11 litter hubs dotted throughout. So it's on our Keep Wales Tidy website. So when people go onto that, they can click on it. They'll click on the area which is closest to them. It gives them all the details of how much kit is there, the contact numbers, you know, when that particular centre might be open. So just for argument's sake, just to let you know, so you've got things like Merthyr Tidwell Leisure Centre as a litter hub, Aberfan Leisure Centre as a litter hub, Dowlais Community Centre as a litter hub. So with regards to promoting it, obviously it's on our website, but we are working closely with the comms department now within Merthyr Council as well. It was a bit awkward when they were first set up because it was through COVID. So what we're finding now is what we're hoping to do with our comms department is try and do a bit of a blanket reopening of the hubs within Merthyr. Like we've got the banners, we take some pictures, hopefully then that will be promoted on the Merthyr Council website as well as our own on through social media aspects. So yeah, we hopefully in the next couple of months we'll try and get them promoted a bit more. But as members of the Scrutiny Committee, please feel free to talk to anybody about it. And if you're not sure what to do, just pass on my details and I'll speak to people.
Lovely. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Chair.
Anyway. Done, Paul?
Yes, thank you.
Flipstar.
It's an observation, Chair, thank you. I know we've demonised sort of young car drivers and college students and fast food outlets, and they all deserve that. Sometimes the criticism weighed at them with regard to litter, but it's just an observation that a lot of the litter that you see around the streets, especially in residential areas, is down to the poor design of our own waste bins. You know, the plastic bins with the black tops which crack and don't fit on properly, the blue covers which don't come off properly. And we all know that a lot of the litter which flies around the streets is often connected with those bins being put out at a time of high wind or bad weather, and a lot of that material which ends up on the streets then is simply the fact that householders are unable to put out their litter from their own houses and secure it properly from the wind. So that's another aspect of the litter system around, or the litter problem around Merthyr, is the fact that a lot of it is sometimes accidental. It's almost impossible to actually specify how much of that is accidental, but people with the best will in the world put their litter out at the right time, but then it's hit by bad weather and a lot of that then gets swept around, and wind blows it into the fences and the walls and the gardens and onto the road then, so the cans get crushed. So I don't know what we do about that, but certainly in my experience, a lot of the stuff that goes out then is not packaged properly. It's blown out of the bins and it then is blown around the area and doesn't get picked up.
And I agree with you, Phil. And there's an email gone around all councillors, whilst it isn't the best option. An email around all councillors this week offering the shower caps. Do you talk about the blue covers? So that's gone around all councillors, and if anybody wanted any of those to get in touch.
More effective than the black. That's the same.
Yeah.
Shower caps on.
Just check, like, just offer some clarification on that. I'm sure you'll be aware, obviously, the methods of containment that we use for waste were specified to us by the Welsh Government as part of the blueprint. So we share your frustration, really do, because you can imagine how many complaints we get. But unfortunately, we are governed by the containers that we use. We have spoken to them about looking for different types of bags and weighted bags and things. But unfortunately, we are left with what we've got at the moment. Yeah.
Part of the filling problem is accidental.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Councillor Jeremy Davis, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, Chair. I don't know what's happened with it. I was coming back on now, some shape. No, I'm just gonna make an observation, because obviously I know we don't comment, no questions. Just an observation. So with these litter hubs that Mark was on about, if the equipment breaks, are they replaced? Or is that it? Like, because I know, like, the one in the Gurner's got 20 litter pickers, 20 hoops you can borrow, but obviously sometimes they break. Yeah, are they replaced, or the litter hubs got to replace them themselves? Because obviously they do sometimes break because some you got to pull trigger with string, some you got to pull trigger with a bit of plastic, yeah, and they do break.
So I think I'm on. Yeah. Yeah. So every litter hub that we set up are made fully aware if there is any issues with any of the kit being damaged, broken, or even pinched sometimes, because they do get it. They should speak to me directly, and then we will try and get them replaced. Now, part of Cara Cymru, unfortunately, at the moment, our funding is due to finish in June this year. So until we've secured some other form of funding, then the litter hubs after that, if we haven't got that type of funding, then unfortunately we won't have the money to replace them. But I'm not saying that's going to be the case. Hopefully, you know, something will come around now in June where we can keep this type of work going. But up until then, any issues, they can let us know and we will try and get them replaced.
Oh, it's brilliant. I was just wondering that's all, because obviously I know equipment does, especially with litter pickers, they're the worst. Sometimes they break quite easily if you're out in the wet a lot and you got a string on them, Mark, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The cord and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering that's all. Thank you.
No problem.
So are there any more observations, comments? No. I'd just like to thank you both for the presentation, for two presentations for me. Excellent and very informative. Thank you very much, and hopefully we shall see you along the road somewhere.
Yeah. Thank you all for your time. That for us to leave.
Yes. So thank you, everyone. Mark, Catherine, Paul, Gerald, David and Judith, if you wish to leave, you may be happy to do so. Right, thank you. Move on to agenda item 6, scrutiny work programme 22-23. The report states that committee date is the 26th of September 22, which is obviously incorrect and should state the 30th of January 2023. There's been an email sent out recently asking for any further possible additions to the work programme. We've got one item for March and one item for May. There have been some suggestions. Councillor Leighton mentioned nappy recycling. We've had a response back from Judith that basically says we're waiting for direction from the Welsh Government because there isn't any efficient and effective way of dealing with nappy waste at the moment.
Right, because I mean, this was brought up 2019 originally, wasn't it? And now it's 2023. And I know they did, because I read the reports online last night, that they did say they were waiting for Welsh Government to come back with the ideas of what they were going to do, and everybody was going to be involved. And that was my question really today, I suppose, in our forward work programme is, can it be looked at again? But obviously you've already had your answer, so. Yeah, it was brought forward, wasn't it? A few times. I know last time was 2021, June 2021. So it's about 18 months on now, and is Welsh Government, and have they been lobbying it with Welsh Government? Because, you know, is it the only place now then, I suppose, Ammanford, is that the only place they do it? Cardiff, yeah. So I'm saying we're not really aware of, because the last report I read, which I see, it was in Ammanford. Is there closer ones? ones that can be used, that we need to get on board with this. All right. Because we moved like 4 bags of used disposable nappies from the bins in the cemeteries, and you know, it's not good enough, is it? You know, just examples. Yeah.
And that's what I remember going. Doing nappy recycling, making carpets of them in Manchester.
With it,
Yeah, for the PGs.
I think it is a big part of our litter problem.
What do we do then? I was unaware of what you're talking about. But we'll go back to Judith and David and highlight that these operations are out there and ask how and if we can be involved with it, and certainly around Cardiff.
And like we said, we're aware, you know, it's not going to be now, it's not going to be tomorrow, but maybe going forward for us on our work, you know,
Yeah.
working forward program, it, you know, it could be a big thing, you know, and make a big difference.
Well, it's a bit disappointing if these facilities are out there, and I've got no reason to believe that they're not. That
Yeah.
officers haven't looked at.
Well,
look at
I
what
know Armandford was the
potential
only one
is.
mentioned, so.
Of the Cardiff. I don't know whether that's fairly recent or it's been there for some years.
It's the yellow bin system. Applied to the bin.
No, the
actual
taking of
recycling of them.
recycling the nappies. Is the one in Cardiff, is that because?
I know, it's a collection.
No.
Whether they put them to landfill.
Yeah, they do collections, if they've got the yellow bin lid, but they do go in normal black bins. What I'm saying is only Armandford I knew of done the actual recycling of them being taken there and put to a purpose.
It seems that it's only Ammanford that's doing it.
It's the recycling aspect.
It's the
Yeah.
recycling aspect. and
Then
it's-
maybe it may have changed, but
Well-
that's all's on the reports and nothing's come back to us of it. Any different?
So
Yeah.
can you repeat again, Chair, what has been told by Welsh Government? What's the?
There won't be anything to report on further to last time. The latest update was provided by Welsh Government last year and advised that the initial procurement process carried out by Welsh Government for a solution to absorbent hygiene waste confirmed there was no commercially available market to meet the needs of all Wales. So an innovation initiative has been launched to develop feasibility studies into AHP recycling. I don't anticipate Welsh Government coming back to us on it until later this year, at which point we can let the chair know if there's anything worth updating the committee on. Thank you, Mark.
I just lost for words, frankly. If we are going to progress recycling, this is one of the bigger issues, in my opinion. In this day and age, we can't accept that soiled nappies or anything, incontinent pads as well, are placed in ordinary black bins. It is truly ridiculous. I understand currently there's a cost to it. So the answer is, for the 22 authorities in Wales, is to have more centres, fairly close to these authorities where it can be taken.
Yeah. Agree.
And that, for me, is an issue that we've got to have guidance on people, civil servants, somebody, a group of people looking at it at the Welsh Government level so that authorities can do this.
Is the collection system in Cardiff a free system or is it paid for? It's free.
It'll go to Ammanford. Yeah.
Yeah, this was something that the last administration was really keen on. We kept pushing for,
Yeah.
for. There seemed to be great reluctance from officers to take it forward, to be honest. They seemed very resistant to the idea of doing it. And that's where we kept running up to the brick wall. And it sounds like we're still no further forward now.
Sorry, Emma. Does it go towards our recycling target then? Would that help? Would it help?
Not if it goes to landfill, obviously not.
No, I'm saying if there was a system.
Yeah.
Go to recycling, it would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was an issue over Aberdare, and this is quite a few years ago, RCT, sorry, where they were not paid for the liquid in the nappy recycling system. And there was a big row about it. I was a cabinet member at the time, and I don't even know if RCT do a nappy collection now. I don't know, but there was a big row about it. Possibly, I just don't know. But there was a massive row over the volume that was given to them for recycling against the volume of the gross waste. You don't get it all back. They weren't getting it all back, and they reduced it more by taking the liquid out of the materials.
Yeah, but show me as well to want to look at all recycling. Because you know that we mentioned a couple of meetings ago that the bins and the wheelie bins are not good enough now. Times have changed. And not everybody got them. Even the green bins, the shower heads are coming out. Sorry, the shower heads are coming out. They're not good enough. Shower heads only last a couple of weeks, so the wind will catch them. Somebody drag them. So now at the end of the day, we should ask somebody to say, can we have a look at change? Are we changing recycling and pick the litter up because it's just a mess wherever we go. It's a big jam. It's a mess wherever we go. And it's not nice. You want to go cars, people throwing rubbish in the cars, doing the sorts. I caught one last week and he knew my French and he went. It's something different. What do we know? My wife was involved, but yeah, he checked them. What damn, it would have been so.
Paula?
Paul, what is Welsh Government's argument again about the fact that
I don't really know the answer to that.
They're looking for a method of recycling it cost efficiently.
so presumably the Ammanford, the nappy cycle plant in Ammanford is not cost effective enough? Is that what they're getting at?
I don't know. Is it subsidised? I don't know is the honest answer.
I think it is down to cost because obviously to take it from Youth to Ammanford and the same with any other council,
Right.
when we should really, I would have thought after all these years, starting in years ago, this came up years ago, there should be something in the pipeline that maybe it could be looked at, you know, because it is a big contributor to our waste.
I think we had to buy a specialist vehicle to transport it as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be on the road.
There was some talk in the last meeting we had, which was probably about 2 years ago, some talk about Merthyr joining with RCT heads of the Valley authorities and having a base somewhere like Bryn Peaker or something. But that went
Yeah.
off, didn't it?
Yeah, I read up on that last night, yes, but it didn't,
No,
nothing
it
come of it.
didn't do anything.
So we had 2 goes at this. I think it was 2 goes because the first report that came to us, we sent it back.
I know you did, yeah.
We weren't happy with it. There was insufficient detailed information there. And then he came back to us. Frankly, we were disappointed with what
I
was.
think the reasonings weren't very good, were they? I mean, one of them was that if we did take the bins out, this is an example of what I've read. If we took the nappies out and done that, then the capacity in the black bins, then they'd start chucking stuff that should be recycled. Well, they do that anyway, wouldn't they? Do you know what I mean? If that was it's happening anyway, so that's not an excuse, is it?
At all. And if every local authority, is it by the 1st of April 2025, has to recycle 70% of waste. Now we've done quite well.
Yeah.
So this is one of the avenues of increasing our recycling. Now, it's a big issue, I accept. The one thing I thought of, Chair, is that, and Malcolm is quite right, there seemed to be a reluctance on getting this report and putting it together from officers. So one avenue that we could explore is for you as the chair of the Scrutiny Committee to write directly to Welsh Government and say that we wanted to scrutinise this again, but we've been given this reason. I mean, it's in this day and age, it's a bit ludicrous that we're not looking at this seriously. It's got to be cracked sometime. We shouldn't be putting any soil nappies or incontinent pads, etc., in the black bin. We've been told to reduce and get as many things out of that black bin. It's and then we've got the absolutely farcical situation where young families apply for the larger bin and then are refused.
Yeah.
So what are they supposed to do?
But on the point of larger bins being refused, the only time I've seen that, and obviously there were many times more than I've seen, has been when there's been recyclables
In the
In
black
the
bin.
in the bins.
Yeah.
But that's by the way. On the point that Bill, I think it was raised about receptacles and others. Judith has said that it was RAP that originally gave us the receptacles and basically told us how to do it, or we were the first trialists. But I agree, we need to look at other receptacles for putting our recycling in. They won't use these, in my view, from what I've seen, they've been given these shower cap covers, and they won't. Some people do, but it's in the majority. So you just drive around and have a look, and all these bins, the vast majority, have got no covers on it. So in the area that we're living in, with the wind, the inevitable happens, and you're dead right, Phil. It's certainly contributes. We've got litter pickers who down the town to do the utmost, and then you've got this added to it. So that's something else that can't go on. I mean, since people have been provided with the triple boxes, that is reduces.
Those are better, but they're few and far between.
They are. There are people who wouldn't have them for good reasons. So you've got to, we've got to move them from wherever they situated. Sometimes up steep drives, and elderly people won't do that. But the recycling boxes, if they haven't got a triple bin, they're open.
Yeah.
And you go to places like Cardiff, and they've been provided with bags. They don't fly away in the weather, so they just pick the bags up. But that's not what happens here.
Right, more than happy to write to whoever may be the relevant minister.
Yeah.
But can we please go back to items for the forward work programme?
Chair, can I come in there, please? Sorry, 2 minutes.
Certainly, Chair.
I'm gonna have to leave now because I got another meeting at 6 o'clock, so I need to get ready. Apologies for that. I didn't think the meeting would go on so long.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
So do we have any other suggestions?
clear what that actually entails, but that's something which presumably has been pushed forward. So would that be something worth considering?
The position with the active travel is that it doesn't fall within our remit.
Right.
Our part around it is largely future costs of maintenance, where the implementation and everything else is done through Councillor Lee Davis's scrutiny. So I will have a conversation if the committee wants to push on the active travel issue. I will speak to Lee Davis and see if he's willing to run a joint scrutiny with us, if that's what the committee wants. Can we stay with one thing for a minute, Bill? I'll come back to the.
No problem. I thought you finished. Sorry, do apologize.
No, I just want to know people's opinion on if we want to push with the active travel, but we haven't got that much input into it. Active travel basically is getting people not to use their cars. In a hierarchy is to walk first, then cycling, then probably buses, trains, so that it's a health benefit for one and an environmental benefit for two.
Would it entail any impact on the general public? Harder for the lanes going with pockets. Council looking at it is, then it is.
Rather than into public transport, it's cycling and walking, and prioritising pedestrians and cyclists over motorists. But it largely falls within Lee Davis's domain. Yeah, whatever is the wish of the committee. So we'll let that one go. Bill, sorry to have interrupted you. You said about.
I'm a load of complaints about the street lighting. I know times are hard and we had to change it all the time. But the lights are on these days, they're not light enough. And the rule states that the street lighting is there for the cars and off the pavement. But people think when they're walking on the pavement, there isn't enough light to see it, just to have the rules and regulations and see what we can do or not. Because we don't know if they're going to cut the lighting back next year, because that's a cost to it. But the rules are, people, I remember when we altered the lights first, they complained that they couldn't see the path walking up. Well, it's not that. The light in the policy is that you drive on the road and you just see the light on the road, not the pavement. So just to have members' views on that, and we take it forward. Is the money there to have a break the lighting system out? That's about it, right?
What may have happened in some areas is that they can control the brilliance of the
I know,
lamps
turn them down
remotely. So I don't know what it's set at on any particular road, whether it has been lessened. I'd be more than happy to pick that up as a.
That's it is.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, yeah, what we can do outside of scrutiny, as long as the chair is happy to take that forward, we can narrow down exactly the scope we're looking at, and obviously I can put a report request through that.
Good.
They know where they all are. They can do it. It doesn't happen. I don't leave it a chance to get residents to complain to me, and by that time they are livid because the lights have been out for weeks. If I see a light out in my ward and in other wards, I reported it. Okay, so that's another aspect of it.
So a ride across the Goat Mill Road.
Yeah, well, there we are. I haven't been up there lately. They're all out, are they?
There are probably 12.
Well, was, yes, we could have put that on, because we tested. Yeah. And that was the answer.
They told me BT had damaged some of the cables, obviously between Paula's and my ward. From the roundabout on the slip road to the roundabout by OP Chocolates, and they said that BT were doing some reinstatement works and damaged cables, and it was down to them. Well, we drove across there the next day, and some of the lights that were off were on in the daytime. When I drove back around in the night, they were off again. You think, what? So I'd be more than happy to pick that one up.
Yeah, because this on Clive, sorry.
Going back to the. Is the system that we've got with the boxes and the open and so on, and this will be a long-term thing, that's not going to happen like that in the next financial year. But I think we should be looking at alternative methods, because there's a variety of them out there right across Wales. So we shouldn't be left with having open boxes and picking up all the problems with that. So that's a wider issue, and benchmarking would come into that. If, for example, the system in Cardiff is working perfectly, or in Swansea, in my opinion, that's what we should be looking at.
Plus, you've got contamination of cardboard when it's wet. It isn't as valuable. At least it's not as valuable if it is acceptable.
I thought they liked it wet. Because it goes in, it packs down into the wagons easier.
And doesn't blow away.
I'm quite sure that the buyers don't like it wet.
Oh, well, I'm pretty sure I've asked this in before when I said, well, all my cardboard is wet. And I said, oh, good. They said, you can get more in the wagon if it's wet.
Yeah, you get more in the wagon, but we get less for it when we sell it.
That's what,
obviously because of the weight, isn't it?
Paul Jones is responsible. This was like 4 years ago.
So we've got 3 suggestions, which is I write to Ogo or whoever else it needs to be with regard to nappies. We've got the recycling boxes and lighting. Are you happy for Neil and myself and possibly Paula to try to get those brought in as quickly as possible? Hopefully we can get one of them. I don't suppose we're going to hit the March meeting unless there's something already done, but hopefully we can get at least one of them to come into the May meeting.
Additional items for consideration when nappy waste is bullet point 1. So we got every reason right to say this is one of the things we want to take forward. So when that forward work program was put together by officers, nappy waste was already under consideration. So what we're doing is bringing it into the meeting,
revisiting it.
Maybe we could have, collate a load of information through ourselves, of experiences and what we've discussed today. Yeah.
Perhaps a meeting of ourselves outside of a formal scrutiny.
Yeah.
And to have sort of our own little workshop. So sort of tasking everybody with finding out what they can.
Yeah.
And I'd be more than happy to have
Yeah, we could do that.
a less formal meeting before we take it forward.
It's something to do with horse racing, something to do with lining the under there.
Or the final.
Yeah, the fibres that make the nappy once they were clean, they were stripping them and it's going into into.
Probably if they were recycled, but the ones that are going into the black bin,
No, they just been
they've just been piled up and living forever.
Today.
Living forever.
You can make carpet of them.
Yeah.
Just for information, Chair, I think the person should be written to give the minister responsible for this. Not any civil servant. They might hand it down to a civil servant. It should land on the minister's desk. That'd be who want to deal with this.
Whoever's dealing with environment.
Yeah,
Well, that Julie James is climate change, isn't she? So would it
Yeah.
be her?
I'm not
No.
sure.
That's a different thing.
I'll do it. But I would-
I'd work through Dawn's office and find out who the appropriate
Yeah,
minister is.
yeah, exactly.
So if there are no more suggestions, are we happy with that?
Yeah.
Report recommendations. Are we happy that we give the 2 items today a good airing? So we happy with that one. Outstanding actions, feedback from workshops, tasks and finish groups. I got one request for members. There was Neil sent an email out requesting those who may be interested in going to Newport to see the recycling and repair and cafe, whatever it is down there. If we could have responses back for that, for those that would be interested in going to Newport to see the facility. It's like our reuse shop. They've got a massive one down in Newport, where not only do they resell the stock that comes in, but they've got a repair shop down there. They got a cafe, and there are other aspects to it. And I want to go down and see it. I want to see what they're doing because of what we're hoping to do in Merthyr to bring new lease of life into the town centre. So as you see what is available. So, but if you are interested, if you can just respond as quickly as possible, please, so we can try and get it organised and done.
They say they can't take them because of the
Safety and standards.
Stay with all the furniture. It's got to have a fire sticker to it. So that is my only other issue, and no other business deemed urgent. And thereby, thank you very much for attending. See you next time, and have a safe journey home.